The fluorescent hum of the office lights felt like a physical weight, pressing down on my temples. My fingers hovered over the keyboard, a report on quarterly projections mocking me from the screen. Each number blurred into another, a meaningless jumble, much like the wreckage of my life. 3 weeks. 3 weeks since Marcus, my fiancé, the alpha I'd pledged my future to, had paraded his new, younger, more fertile amiga through the office, a smug triumph etched on his handsome face. He'd made sure everyone saw. He'd made sure I saw. My stomach churned, a familiar knot of nausea tightening with every passing minute. I pushed my chair back, the squeak echoing in the cavernous, almost empty floor. Most people had already left, eager to escape the sterile confines. Not me. I found a perverse comfort in the quiet, the anonymity it offered. No pitying glances, no whispered condolences that felt more like judgment. A shadow fell over my desk. My breath hitched. Not him. Please, not him. Still here, Leo. The voice was a low rumble, a sound that could strip paint from walls or command legions. Mer. Hayes. My boss. The alpha of all alphas, if the rumors were to be believed. He stood like a monolith, impeccably tailored, his presence radiating an almost palpable chill. My heart hammered against my ribs, a frantic bird trapped in a cage. He rarely spoke to me directly, his instructions usually relayed through a network of underlings. I swallowed, my throat suddenly dry. Just wrapping things up, Hayes. My voice sounded thin, reedy, utterly unlike my usual professional timbre. The humiliation burned hotter. I hated how vulnerable I felt, how every interaction felt like an open wound. He didn't move, didn't offer a customary nod of dismissal. His gaze, sharp and unblinking, swept over my desk, then landed on my face. I felt stripped bare, every insecurity, every sleepless night laid out for his inspection. He saw too much. He always did. You look like hell, Leo. His words weren't a question, but a blunt assessment. No sugarcoating, no niceties. Just the stark truth. I flinched, my cheeks coloring. I knew I did. My eyes were perpetually shadowed, my skin a pasty gray, my usually neat hair a tangled mess I hadn't bothered to tame. I'm fine, sir. Just a long week. A muscle in his jaw twitched. He wasn't buying it. He never bought anything less than absolute honesty. I understand your apartment lease is up next month. My eyes widened. How did he know that? My personal life was a fortress, especially after Marcus. I kept work and home separate fiercely. Yes, it is. I'm looking for a new place. The lie tasted bitter. I wasn't looking. I was barely functioning. The thought of packing, of finding a new home, felt insurmountable. He stepped closer, his scent, a cool, crisp cedar and frost, filling the air. It was an alpha scent. Undeniable, powerful, but unlike Marcus's cloying sweetness, it held a detached, almost clinical quality. It didn't invite. It commanded. It's come to my attention that your current living situation is less than ideal. My jaw clenched. Less than ideal was an understatement. My small apartment was filled with ghosts, with memories of a future that would never be. And Marcus, in his infinite cruelty, had made sure to spread the word about my emotional instability to anyone who would listen. He'd even hinted I was neglecting my work. My personal life doesn't affect my work performance, Hayes. The words came out sharper than I intended, laced with a defiance I didn't know I possessed. His eyes narrowed fractionally. Doesn't it? You've missed 2 deadlines this week. Your focus is fragmented. Your usual meticulous reports are sloppy. He didn't raise his voice, but the quiet censure was far more potent than any shout. My shoulders slumped. He was right. He was always right. The shame burned. I apologized, sir. It won't happen again. He leaned a hand on my desk, the heavy gold watch on his wrist gleaming under the harsh lights. I have an apartment in my penthouse. Unused. It's a 3-bedroom, fully furnished. You can stay there. My breath caught in my throat. I stared at him. Sure I'd misheard. What? You heard me, he stated. No room for argument. It's temporary. Until you find your footing. Consider it a professional courtesy. I require my executive assistant to be at peak performance. His gaze was unreadable, cold as polished steel. The absurdity of it stole my voice. My boss, the formidable Mr. Hayes, was offering me a room in his penthouse. The man who barely acknowledged my existence beyond work tasks. Mr. Hayes, I can't. That's inappropriate. Inappropriate. He raised an eyebrow, a flicker of something unreadable in his eyes. Is it inappropriate to ensure an employee can fulfill their duties without external distractions? His tone was clipped, leaving no room for negotiation. You'll have your own entrance, your own space, complete privacy. But why? The question tumbled out, raw and unfiltered. Why me? Why now? He pushed off the desk, walking to the window, his back to me. The city lights twinkled far below, a tapestry of distant lives. Let's just say I have a vested interest in your well-being, Leo. Your work is valuable. I don't tolerate inefficiency. And I don't tolerate distractions. The last word hung in the air, loaded with unspoken meaning. Was he referring to Marcus? To the office gossip? My mind raced, grappling with the offer. It was insane. It was unthinkable. But the alternative, going home to that empty apartment, the constant ache in my chest, the fear of running into Marcus in the building. A sudden, overwhelming exhaustion washed over me. I was tired of fighting. I don't know what to say. He turned, his expression stern. Say you accept. The car will pick you up at 8 tomorrow morning. Pack a bag. He didn't wait for my answer, simply strode towards the elevators, his imposing figure disappearing into the polished steel doors. I sat there, stunned, the silence of the office pressing in. My boss, Mr. Hayes, wanted me to live with him. It was a lifeline, a gilded cage, a terrifying, impossible offer. The next morning, the black sedan that pulled up to my curb was as sleek and intimidating as Mr. Hayes himself. I clutched my single duffel bag, a meager collection of clothes and essentials. My apartment, stripped bare of anything I associated with Marcus, felt emptier than ever. The ride was silent, the cityscape blurring past. My heart hammered with a mixture of apprehension and a strange, desperate hope. What was I doing? This was madness. The penthouse was a study in understated luxury. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a breathtaking panorama of the city, the light pouring in, making the space feel vast and airy. Clean lines, minimalist decor, expensive art adorning the walls. It was a world away from my cramped, familiar apartment. A prim-faced woman, the housekeeper, met me at the door. Mr. Hayes is in his study. He expects you to settle in. Your room is down this hall. Her voice was soft, but her eyes held a knowing glint. Office gossip, I thought, already reaching the highest echelons. My room was more like a suite. A king-sized bed, crisp white linens, a private bathroom with a rain shower, and a small sitting area. It was impersonal, elegant, and utterly overwhelming. I dropped my bag on the plush carpet, feeling utterly out of place. I heard the distant murmur of voices, and then the clink of glassware. Hayes, it seemed, was already entertaining. I decided to make myself scarce, to become as invisible as possible. I unpacked my few belongings, folded them neatly into the empty dresser drawers, and then retreated to the window, watching the city breathe below. Hours later, the silence of the apartment was broken by a sharp rap on my door. I jumped, startled. Come in. Mr. Hayes stood framed in the doorway, a freshly ironed shirt, sleeves rolled to his forearms, revealing powerful, corded muscles. He held a glass of amber liquid. You haven't eaten, Mrs. Gable left dinner for you. I hadn't even noticed the time. My stomach growled in protest. Oh, thank you, sir. He stepped inside, his gaze sweeping over the room. Is this satisfactory? More than, I managed, my voice still a little shaky. It's beautiful, good. He walked to a small built-in bar, pouring another drink, scotch. No, thank you. I don't drink much. He nodded, taking a sip of his own. A sensible habit. He paused, then turned, his expression softening just a fraction. It was barely perceptible, but I saw it. Look, Leo, I know this is unorthodox, but I saw you crumbling. You're a good omega, a valuable asset to this company. I won't stand by and watch you self-destruct. His words, blunt as they were, hit me with an unexpected force. A good omega. Not just an employee, but me. He saw me. My eyes pricked with tears, and I quickly looked away, mortified. I appreciate your concern, Mr. Hayes. It's not concern, he corrected, his voice firm again. It's practical. I need you focused. You need a safe space. This is it. No questions. No expectations beyond your work performance. No expectations. No questions. The words were meant to reassure, but they also built a wall, a clear boundary. This was business. Always business. I nodded, swallowing the lump in my throat. Understood, sir. Good. He finished his drink, the ice clinking against the glass. Dinner is in the kitchen. He turned, a formidable presence, and exited, leaving me alone in the opulent silence once more. I ate the meal Mrs. Gable had prepared, a perfectly roasted chicken breast with asparagus, feeling like an imposter. The food was delicious, but my appetite was still a fragile thing. After I found myself drawn back to the window, the city lights now a comforting blanket rather than a mocking glare. This was my new reality, living with Mr. Hayes, the cold, imposing alpha who had, for reasons unknown, decided to pull me from the wreckage of my life. The next few days settled into an odd rhythm. We left for work together in the mornings, the silence in the car companionable rather than strained. At the office, he was the same unapproachable boss, his demands precise, his expectations high. He pushed me, challenged me, but never in a way that felt condescending. He expected excellence, and surprisingly, I found myself rising to meet it. The work became a distraction, a focus that pulled me from the abyss of my broken heart. Evenings were the strangest. We rarely saw each other. He was often in his study, or out at business dinners. I would eat alone, read, or simply stare out at the city. But the knowledge that he was there, a quiet, powerful presence, was strangely comforting. I felt a sense of safety I hadn't realized I craved. Then Marcus called. My phone buzzed on the coffee table. I stared at his name, a visceral wave of dread washing over me. I hadn't spoken to him since the day he'd announced his new amiga, a slender, almost childlike beta named Chloe, with a sickeningly sweet smile. I let it ring, then ring again. Finally, curiosity, or perhaps a morbid desire for closure, won out. I answered, Leo, thank God you picked up. His voice, once so familiar, now grated on my nerves. It was too smooth, too practiced. I didn't respond, just held the phone to my ear, my heart thumping. Look, I know things ended badly, he continued, a sigh meant to convey regret. But I've been hearing things. About you and Hayes. Are you really living with him? A cold dread seeped into my veins. Gossip. It was already spreading like wildfire. That's none of your business, Marcus. Oh. But it is, sweetheart. We were practically family. And my reputation. People are talking. Saying you're desperate. That you're throwing yourself at the most powerful alpha in the city. His tone shifted, a hint of accusation creeping in. My hand tightened around the phone. My reputation. What about my reputation, Marcus? You paraded your new Omega through my office. You humiliated me. My voice trembled, anger and pain warring within me. That's different. That was a clean break. This looks like you're trying to leverage your heartbreak for a promotion, or worse. He actually chuckled, a low, condescending sound. Don't tell me you think Hayes actually cares about you. He's ruthless, Leo. He uses people. Don't be naive. The words stung, hitting every raw nerve, every insecurity I harbored about my situation with Mr. Hayes. Was he right? Was I just a convenience? A project? I have to go. I whispered, my voice thick with unshed tears. Just think about what I said. Marcus pressed, his voice suddenly softer, almost cajoling. Maybe you should come back to your old apartment. We could talk. Clear the air. The audacity. He wanted me back within his orbit, a familiar trophy, perhaps to mend his own bruised ego. Goodbye, Marcus. I hung up, my hand shaking. I sank onto the sofa, the penthouse suddenly feeling less like a sanctuary and more like a cage. Marcus's words echoed in my mind, a toxic refrain. Was I being naive? Was Mr. Hayes truly using me? The thought gnawed at me, a bitter seed of doubt. A soft click of the front door broke my reverie. Hayes. He walked in, shedding his jacket, loosening his tie. He looked tired, a faint line etched between his brows, but his presence was as commanding as ever. He paused when he saw me, his gaze sharp. Everything all right? His voice was low, devoid of its usual crispness. I swallowed, trying to compose myself. Fine, sir. The lie felt hollow. He walked over, stopping a few feet from me. His scent, that familiar cedar and frost, was stronger now, a comforting, grounding anchor in my turbulent emotions. You're upset. It wasn't a question. I shook my head, avoiding his gaze. It was just, Marcus. A flicker in his eyes, quick as a shadow. What did he want? To warn me, I suppose. About you? About how you use people. The words tumbled out before I could stop them, laced with the pain Marcus had inflicted. Mr. Hayes' jaw tightened. He sat on the opposite end of the sofa, maintaining a respectful distance, yet his attention was entirely on me. And what do you believe, Leo? His voice was calm, but there was an underlying current of something I couldn't decipher. I looked at him then, truly looked at him. The sharp angles of his face, the intensity of his gaze, the quiet strength that emanated from him. He wasn't soft. He wasn't gentle. But he hadn't, not once, made me feel small or insignificant since I'd moved in. He had simply demanded my best, and in doing so, had given me a purpose beyond my grief. I don't know, I admitted, the honesty raw. He said you were ruthless, that you don't care. A small, almost imperceptible sigh escaped him. Marcus is a fool. His voice was flat, but the conviction in it was absolute. He lost something valuable, and now he seeks to undermine it, to poison what he cannot possess. He paused, his eyes fixed on mine. I offered you shelter, Leo, because I saw a good man, an exceptional Omega, in distress. Your well-being benefits my company. That is the practical truth. He stood, walking to the window, his back to me once more. But there are other truths. Ones Marcus, in his superficiality, could never comprehend. He turned, his gaze meeting mine across the vast living room. I do not use people, Leo. I invest in them. And I protect my investments. The words hung in the air, a complex tapestry of meaning. He protected his investments. Was I an investment? A valuable asset? The thought was strangely comforting, far more than any empty platitude. He saw my worth, even when I couldn't. I understand, I said, a fragile peace settling over me. Good. He walked to the bar, pouring himself another drink. Now, about Marcus. He will not bother you again. I will ensure it. His voice was low, dangerous. The alpha in him, the protector, was undeniably present. A shiver, not of fear, but of something else entirely, traced its way down my spine. You don't have to, I do. He cut me off, his eyes hard. He has overstepped, and he has made the mistake of targeting someone under my roof. He raised his glass, a silent toast. Consider it handled. And I knew, with a certainty that settled deep in my bones, that he meant it. Marcus wouldn't bother me again, Dahmer. Hayes had drawn a line, and woe betide anyone who dared to cross it. A strange warmth bloomed in my chest, a feeling of security I hadn't felt in months. Perhaps, I thought, this complex, forbidden arrangement wasn't so bad after all. Chapter 2. The next morning, a subtle shift permeated the air. The usual crisp cedar and frost of Mr. Hayes' scent now carried an undertone of something warmer, something that settled deep in my chest. He didn't mention Marcus, didn't need to. The quiet intensity in his eyes as he looked at me across the breakfast table spoke volumes. He sat opposite me, impeccably dressed as always, reading the financial section of the newspaper. The rich aroma of coffee and toast filled the luxurious kitchen. You have the Henderson report due by noon, he stated, his voice even, his eyes still on the paper. Yes, sir. It's almost finalized. My voice was steadier now, the tremor from Marcus's call gone. A new resolve had taken its place. I would prove him wrong. I would prove everyone wrong. He folded the paper, placing it neatly beside his plate. His gaze met mine, sharp and assessing. Good. I expect nothing less. A hint of a smile, so fleeting I almost missed it, touched the corner of his lips. And Leo? Sir, don't let anyone dictate your worth. His words were soft, almost a whisper, but they resonated with an unexpected power. He stood, gathering his things. The car will be ready in 10 minutes. He left me there, a single, potent sentence hanging in the air. Don't let anyone dictate your worth. It was more than a professional directive. It felt like a personal challenge. At the office, the air was thick with whispers. Heads turned as I walked past. Conversations dying abruptly. I kept my gaze forward, my spine straight. Marcus wasn't in his usual cubicle. In fact, he wasn't in the office at all. A strange, unsettling quiet had replaced his usual boisterous presence. When I asked a colleague, Sarah, she just shrugged, her eyes wide. He's gone, Leo. Transferred to the regional branch in Albany. Effective immediately. Her voice was hushed, as if speaking of a ghost. No one saw it coming. One day he was here. The next, poof. Albany. A regional branch. It was a demotion. A professional exile. Dahmer. Hayes had been true to his word. He had handled it. The sheer, silent power of it was both terrifying and exhilarating. He hadn't raised his voice, hadn't made a scene. He had simply acted, and Marcus, the man who had shattered my world, was gone. A complex mix of emotions swirled within me. Relief, yes, a profound, undeniable relief, but also a flicker of unease. What kind of man wielded such power? And what did it mean for me, living under his roof? The following weeks established a new routine. My work thrived under Mr. Hayes' demanding, but fair leadership. I found myself anticipating his directives, understanding his unspoken expectations. He pushed me, and I discovered a resilience I hadn't known I possessed. The reports were crisp, the presentations flawless. My focus was absolute. Evenings in the penthouse became less solitary. He started requesting my presence at dinners, not for business, but for quiet meals in the elegant dining room. We would talk, not about work, but about current events, literature, sometimes even art. I found myself opening up, sharing opinions, engaging in discussions that were both intellectually stimulating and surprisingly intimate. He listened, truly listened, his dark eyes never leaving my face. One evening, after a particularly challenging day at work, I found myself in the expansive living room, nursing a cup of herbal tea. The city lights twinkled like scattered diamonds outside the panoramic windows. I felt a sense of peace I hadn't known in years. Dahmer. Hayes entered, shedding his jacket, his tie loosened. He looked less formidable, more approachable. He poured himself a drink, the amber liquid glinting in the low light. Long day? I asked, my voice softer than I intended. He turned, a faint smile playing on his lips. Productive. The Jensen deal closed. Congratulations, sir. Thank you, Leo. He walked over, settling into the armchair opposite me. The scent of cedar and frost mingled with a hint of scotch. It was a comforting combination. You contributed significantly to the negotiations. Your projections were invaluable. My cheeks warmed. Praise from Mr. Hayes was a rare, precious commodity. I was happy to help. You did more than help. You anticipated. You saw the angles others missed. He took a sip of his drink, his gaze intense. You have a sharp mind, Leo. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. His words, echoing his earlier sentiment, resonated deep within me. My self-worth, shattered by Marcus, was slowly, painstakingly being rebuilt brick by brick by this formidable man. Marcus always said I was too soft, I confessed, the words tumbling out before I could stop them, too emotional, not alpha enough. A muscle in Mr. Hayes' jaw tightened. Marcus was an idiot. Your emotional depth is a strength, Leo. Your empathy, your intuition, these are qualities many alphas lack. To their detriment, they allow you to see nuances, to understand motivations. They make you a better omega, a better partner, a better asset. His words were a balm to old wounds. He didn't see my omega nature as a weakness, but as a strength. He didn't want me to be an alpha, he valued me as an omega. It was a revelation. Thank you, I whispered, my voice thick with emotion. He simply nodded, his gaze unwavering. You are an omega of exceptional caliber, Leo. Never forget that. The silence that followed was charged, filled with unspoken things. I felt an undeniable pull towards him, a magnetic force that both thrilled and terrified me. He was my boss, my protector, my something more. The power dynamic was immense, but it was also dissolving, blurring into something new, something dangerous and exhilarating. A few days later, a formal invitation arrived on my desk. The annual corporate gala, a black-tie affair, the social event of the year for the city's elite. My stomach clenched. Social events, especially those Marcus might attend even if he was in Albany, his ghost still haunted me, filled me with dread. Later that evening, Mr. Hayes found me staring at the invitation, a frown etched on my face. You received your invitation, he observed, his voice devoid of inflection. Yes, sir. I don't think I'll be attending. He raised an eyebrow. And why not? It's not really my scene. And with everything that happened, I trailed off. The humiliation's still a raw nerve. He walked closer, picking up the invitation. You are my executive assistant, Leo. Your presence is expected. It reflects well on the company. His voice was firm, leaving no room for argument. And on you. But, no buts, Leo. You will attend. And you will attend with me. My breath caught in my throat. Attend with him? As his date? The implication hung heavy in the air. Sir, I don't think that's appropriate. People will talk. People will always talk, he dismissed, waving a hand. Let them see you thriving. Let them see you where you belong. His eyes, usually so cold, held a glint of something warmer, something possessive. Besides, I require a suitable escort. And you, Leo, are eminently suitable. My heart hammered against my ribs. He wasn't just offering protection, he was offering to stand by my side publicly. It was a statement, a defiance of the gossip of Marcus, of anyone who dared to question my place. I don't have anything to wear, I stammered, grasping at straws. A small smile, a genuine one this time, softened his features. Consider it handled. Mrs. Gable has already made arrangements. He was always one step ahead, always in control. And for some inexplicable reason, that control, that absolute certainty, was starting to feel less like a cage and more like a safe harbor. The day of the gala arrived. I was a bundle of nerves. Mrs. Gable, a formidable woman with a kind smile, had taken me to a high-end boutique. I'd never worn anything so luxurious. The tailored suit, a deep charcoal gray, fit me perfectly, making me feel taller, more confident. Mr. Hayes entered my room just as I finished adjusting my cufflinks. He wore a classic black tuxedo, a white silk pocket square, and a confident, almost predatory air. He looked magnificent. My breath hitched. His gaze swept over me, a slow, deliberate appraisal that made my skin tingle. You look exceptional, Leo. His voice was a low rumble, sending shivers down my spine. You too, sir. I managed, my voice a little breathless. He offered me his arm, a gesture of old-world chivalry. Shall we? Walking into that ballroom on his arm felt like stepping into a different dimension. The air crackled with energy, the scent of expensive perfumes and alphas mingling. Every eye seemed to turn towards us. I felt 100 pairs of eyes on my back. But with Mr. Hayes beside me, his solid presence a reassuring anchor, I found a strength I didn't know I possessed. We moved through the crowd, a silent force. He introduced me to powerful executives, influential figures, his hand resting lightly on the small of my back, a subtle, possessive touch that sent warmth coursing through me. I spoke confidently, answered questions, and found myself enjoying the attention. This wasn't pity. This was respect. Then I saw him, Marcus. He stood across the room, his new amiga, Chloe, clinging to his arm. His eyes, dark with surprise and a flash of something ugly, met mine. He hadn't expected me to be here. He certainly hadn't expected me to be here with Hayes. A shiver of triumph, cold and sweet, ran through me. Hayes felt it. His hand tightened imperceptibly on my back. He leaned in, his voice a low murmur against my ear. He's watching. I know. My voice was steady. Good. He gave my back a reassuring squeeze. Hold your head high, Leo. You belong here. We continued to circulate, but my gaze kept returning to Marcus. He was agitated, whispering furiously to Chloe, his eyes darting between me and Hayes. His carefully constructed facade was crumbling. Later, as the music swelled and couples took to the dance floor, Mr. Hayes turned to me. Would you care to dance, Leo? My eyes widened. Dance? With him? In front of everyone? The thought was intoxicating, terrifying. I'm not a very good dancer, sir. A faint smile touched his lips. I'll lead. He led me to the center of the dance floor, his hand firm on my waist, his other hand clasping mine. His scent, strong and reassuring, enveloped me. We moved slowly, deliberately, a silent statement to the room. I felt the heat of his palm through my suit jacket, the warmth spreading through my body. My heart pounded a frantic rhythm against my ribs. This was more than just a dance. It was an act of defiance, a public declaration. I risked a glance at Marcus. His face was pale, his jaw clenched. Chloe looked bewildered. He couldn't stand it. The triumph was mine. You're doing wonderfully, Mr. Hayes whispered, his voice close to my ear, sending another shiver down my spine. Thank you, I breathed, leaning slightly into his touch. I closed my eyes for a moment, letting myself feel the moment, the music, the warmth of his hand. It was exhilarating. As the song ended, he didn't immediately release me. His gaze, dark and intense, held mine. The noise of the ballroom faded. The music dimmed. It was just us. His thumb stroked the back of my hand, a feather-light touch that sent sparks through me. Leo, he began, his voice deeper now, a raw edge to it I hadn't heard before. There's something I need to tell you. My heart leaped into my throat. This was it. The moment of truth. What would he say? Would he finally admit to something more than professional courtesy? Or would he draw a harsh line, reminding me of the boundaries? Before he could continue, a voice, dripping with false sweetness, cut through the moment. Well, if it isn't Leo. Looking, well-fed. Marcus, he stood a few feet away, Chloe clinging to his arm, a sneer barely disguised on his face. He'd clearly had too much to drink. Hayes stiffened, his hand dropping from my waist. The temperature in the room seemed to drop several degrees. His scent, which had been warm and comforting, now sharpened, laced with a predatory edge. Marcus, Mr. Hayes' voice was low, dangerous, a growl barely contained. Hayes, fancy seeing you here. And with my leftovers. Marcus gestured dismissively at me. Still picking up after me, I see. My blood ran cold. The humiliation, the anger, the fear, all rushed back. I wanted to disappear. Before I could react, Mr. Hayes stepped forward, placing himself squarely between me and Marcus. His posture was rigid, his gaze like ice. Watch your tongue, Marcus. You are speaking about my guest. Oh, your guest? Marcus laughed, a harsh, unpleasant sound. Don't tell me you've fallen for the little Omega sob story, Hayes. He's a manipulator. Always was. Used me. And now he's using you. The air crackled with tension. I saw the muscles in Mr. Hayes' jaw clench, his knuckles turn white. His alpha aura, usually so carefully contained, flared. A tangible wave of power that made Chloe whimper and shrink behind Marcus. You will apologize to Leo, Mr. Hayes commanded, his voice barely above a whisper, yet it held the weight of an unmovable mountain. Now, Marcus, emboldened by alcohol and his own hubris, scoffed. Apologize to him for what? Telling the truth. Then, Mr. Hayes did something I had never seen him do. He moved with a speed that belied his controlled demeanor. He grabbed Marcus by the lapels of his tuxedo, lifting him slightly off his feet. Marcus's eyes widened in shock and fear. You are a disgrace, Marcus, Mr. Hayes growled, his voice a guttural sound, primal and terrifying. You dishonored an Omega, your former partner, in the most public way. You spread malicious lies, and you dare to insult him in my presence. His grip tightened. Let me be clear. Leo is under my protection. Any further disrespect, any further attempt to malign his character, will be met with consequences you cannot fathom. Do you understand? Marcus, pale and trembling, could only nod, his feet dangling inches from the ground. Hayes released him with a shove, Marcus stumbling back into Chloe, who let out a small shriek. Now get out of my sight, both of you. And if I ever hear of you approaching Leo again, I will personally ensure your career and your reputation are utterly destroyed. Consider this your only warning." Marcus, thoroughly cowed, grabbed Chloe's arm and practically dragged her out of the ballroom, their hasty retreat a spectacle for all to see. The silence that followed was deafening. Every eye in the room was on us. Dotmer. Hayes, his chest heaving slightly, turned back to me. His eyes, still blazing with a protective fury, softened as they met mine. "Are you all right, Leo?" His voice was rough, laced with concern. I stood there, trembling, the adrenaline coursing through my veins. He had defended me. He had protected me. He had shown me a side of him that was fierce, raw, and utterly devoted. The power he wielded wasn't just corporate, it was deeply, fundamentally alpha. And it was all directed at keeping me safe. I felt tears prick my eyes, not of sadness, but of overwhelming gratitude and something else, something akin to awe. "Yes," I whispered, my voice thick. I'm all right. Thank you." He reached out, his hand gently cupping my cheek. His thumb brushed away a stray tear. His touch was surprisingly soft, tender. "No one ever gets to speak to you that way, Leo. Not while I'm around." His words, his touch, his fierce protection, it shattered the last vestiges of my doubt, of my fear. The power imbalance was still there, undeniable, but it was no longer a threat. It was a shield, and the complex, forbidden romance I'd been trying to deny now bloomed, vibrant and undeniable, in the very core of my being. I looked into his dark, intense eyes, and for the first time in months, I felt truly, completely safe. And something else, something new and thrilling, I felt desired. "Let's go home," he murmured, his gaze never leaving mine. He took my hand, his fingers intertwining with mine, and led me out of the ballroom, leaving behind the stunned silence and the lingering whispers. The city lights beckoned, promising a future I could finally believe in, a future with him. The hum of the sedan was a balm, a soft counterpoint to the frantic rhythm of my heart. Dotmer. Hayes' hand, still intertwined with mine, felt warm and solid, a grounding presence in the whirlwind of emotions. The city lights blurred past the window, a dazzling, indifferent spectacle. I leaned my head against the cool leather of the seat, the adrenaline slowly receding, leaving behind a profound sense of exhaustion. And something else, a flicker of hope, bright and fragile. He didn't speak until we were back in the penthouse. The silence of the apartment a stark contrast to the cacophony of the ballroom. He released my hand, but his gaze remained fixed on me, intense and unwavering. "Are you truly all right, Leo?" His voice was low, rough with an emotion I couldn't quite decipher. "He didn't hurt you?" I shook my head, still a little dazed. "No, just shaken." "And angry." So angry. The words came out in a rush, a sudden release of the tension I'd held captive. How dare he? How dare he speak to me like that?" He walked closer, stopping just inches from me. His scent, still carrying the sharp edge of his earlier fury, now softened, laced with concern. He reached out, his fingers tracing the line of my jaw, his touch feather light. "He's a desperate man, Leo. He saw what he lost, and he lashed out." "It means nothing." It felt like it meant everything, I whispered, leaning into his touch, finding comfort in the simple contact. He made me feel small, insignificant, just like he always did. His thumb stroked my cheek, his eyes darkening. "You are not small, Leo. You are magnificent." And he is a fool who couldn't see it. His voice was a low growl, a promise of protection. "No one will ever make you feel small again. Not while I breathe." The intensity of his gaze, the raw emotion in his voice, stole my breath. This wasn't just a boss protecting an employee. This was something deeper, something primal. My own Omega instinct stirred, responding to his potent alpha presence, to his unwavering claim. You defended me," I managed, the words catching in my throat. "In front of everyone." "Of course, I did." His gaze never wavered. "You are mine to protect, Leo. Mine." The word reverberated through me, a powerful, intoxicating echo. It wasn't a claim of ownership, not in the way Marcus would have used it. It was a declaration of belonging, a promise of safety. And in that moment, standing in the opulent silence of his penthouse, I knew, with absolute certainty, that I wanted to be his. I reached up, my hand trembling slightly as I touched his cheek, tracing the rough stubble of his jaw. "Elias," I whispered, using his first name for the first time. It felt foreign, yet utterly right. A flicker of surprise, then something akin to tenderness, crossed his features. His eyes softened, a warmth spreading through their dark depths. "Leo." He leaned down, slowly, deliberately, giving me every opportunity to pull away. But I didn't. I leaned in, my eyes fluttering shut, anticipating, craving. His lips, firm and warm, met mine. It wasn't a demanding kiss, but a gentle exploration, a slow, tender claim. It tasted of scotch and something uniquely Elias, something safe and powerful. My fingers tangled in the hair at his nape, pulling him closer, deepening the kiss. All the fear, all the doubt, all the lingering pain of Marcus dissolved in the sheer intensity of the moment. This was real. This was now. When he finally pulled back, we were both breathless. His forehead rested against mine, his scent, now a dizzying mix of cedar, frost, and something else, something uniquely us enveloping me. I didn't think this was possible, I whispered, my voice hoarse. I have wanted this since the day you walked into my office, Leo, he confessed, his voice a low, gravelly rumble. But I feared I would scare you away, that you would see only the alpha, the boss, and not the man. My heart swelled. I see the man, Elias. I see the man who saved me, the man who saw my worth when I couldn't, the man who protects me. He pulled back fully, his hands cupping my face, his thumb stroking my cheeks. His eyes, dark and intense, held a vulnerability I had never seen before. I want you, Leo. Not as an employee, not as a project, as my omega, my partner, my everything. The directness of his declaration, the raw honesty, shook me to my core. It was everything I had ever dreamed of, everything I had stopped believing was possible. My eyes welled up, tears of joy this time. Yes, I breathed, the single word laden with all my hopes, all my desires. Yes, Elias. 1,000 times yes. He smiled then, a full, genuine smile that transformed his formidable features into something breathtakingly beautiful. He leaned in again, kissing me with a passion that left no doubt, no room for question. The night was still young, and the world outside could wait. Tonight, we were just Elias and Leo, two souls finding solace and passion in each other's arms. The morning after was a revelation. I woke nestled against Elias, his arm a heavy, comforting weight around my waist. The scent of him, warm and intimate, filled my senses. Sunlight streamed through the windows, painting the luxurious room in gold. It felt right, utterly, perfectly right. He stirred, his eyes fluttering open. A soft smile touched his lips as he saw me. Good morning, Leo. His voice was husky with sleep. Good morning, Elias, I replied, a blush rising to my cheeks. It was still surreal, this intimacy. He pulled me closer, pressing a soft kiss to my hair. No regrets? I looked up at him, my heart full. None. Only wonder. How did I get so lucky? He chuckled, a deep, rumbling sound that vibrated through my chest. Luck had nothing to do with it. It was inevitable. He paused, his expression growing serious. We need to talk about what this means to us, to the company. I nodded, the real world, with its complexities and challenges, slowly creeping back in. I know. The gala everyone saw. Let them see. His jaw firmed. I will not hide this. Not now. Not ever. He sat up, pulling me with him, so I was leaning against his chest, his arms still around me. There will be talk. There will be scrutiny. There will be those who accuse you of opportunism, and me of impropriety. I know. I whispered, a familiar knot of anxiety tightening in my stomach. Marcus already started it. Marcus is irrelevant now. He pressed a kiss to my temple. But the corporate world is not forgiving of perceived scandals, especially when an alpha of my standing is involved with an omega subordinate. Some will see it as a weakness, a distraction. Others will try to exploit it. What do we do? I looked up at him, a flicker of fear in my eyes. We face it, together. His gaze was resolute. We will be transparent within reason. We will demonstrate that this relationship, far from being a detriment, makes us both stronger. That it enhances our performance, not detracts from it. He paused, his eyes searching mine. Are you ready for that, Leo? For the scrutiny? For the judgment? I thought of Marcus's taunts, of the whispers, of the shame. But then I thought of Elias, his fierce protection, his unwavering belief in me. I thought of the peace I felt in his presence, the joy he brought into my life. Yes, I said, my voice firm, my resolve hardening. I'm ready, as long as I have you. He smiled, a slow, tender curve of his lips. You have me, Leo, completely. He kissed me again. Abe promised, sealing the words. Now, let's have breakfast, and then we'll draft a statement for the board. The next few days were a whirlwind. Elias, true to his word, did not hide our relationship. He brought me to work, his hand resting casually on my back as we walked through the lobby. He made sure everyone saw us. The whispers grew louder, but they also changed. There was still judgment, but also grudging respect for Elias's audacity and curiosity about me. The board meeting was tense. Elias addressed the elephant in the room with his usual directness. Gentlemen, ladies, he began, his voice calm, commanding the room. I understand there has been considerable speculation regarding my personal life, specifically my relationship with my executive assistant, Leo. He paused. letting the words sink in. Let me be clear. Leo and I are in a committed relationship. He is my partner, and I intend for that to be a permanent arrangement. A ripple went through the room. Old Mr. Henderson, a longtime board member, cleared his throat. Mr. Hayes, while we appreciate your candor, this is highly unorthodox. A relationship with a subordinate. It raises questions of professionalism, of favoritism. Elias's gaze sharpened. Leo is no longer my subordinate in the traditional sense. His role will be redefined, his responsibilities expanded to reflect his invaluable contribution to this company, and my trust in his judgment. As for favoritism, I assure you, Leo's performance has consistently exceeded expectations. His insights have been instrumental in securing the Jensen deal, among others. His presence, far from being a distraction, has sharpened my focus and enhanced my overall effectiveness. He looked directly at me, a silent message of reassurance. I sat straighter, meeting the gazes of the board members, my own resolve matching his. This company, Elias continued, his voice gaining momentum, thrives on innovation, on strength, on leadership. If my personal happiness, if my choice of partner, makes me a more effective leader, then I suggest you consider it an asset, not a liability. He leaned forward, his voice dropping to a dangerous whisper. Any attempt to undermine this relationship, or to question Leo's professional integrity based on our personal connection, will be met with the full force of my authority. I trust my judgment, and I trust Leo. Do I make myself clear? The silence that followed was absolute. No one dared to challenge him further. Elias had drawn his line in the sand, and the board, recognizing the formidable force they were up against, retreated. Life settled into a new, exhilarating rhythm. My role at the company evolved, shifting from executive assistant to strategic analyst, a position that utilized my keen intellect and organizational skills, and placed me more as Elias's peer than his subordinate. We still worked closely, but now there was an unspoken understanding, a shared future guiding our every interaction. The office gossip eventually died down, replaced by a grudging acceptance and sometimes even admiration. Elias and I became a power couple, a unit. He still commanded respect, but now there was a warmth around him, a hint of the man I knew behind closed doors. And I, once the heartbroken Omega, now walked with the confidence I never thought possible, secure in Elias's love and my own rediscovered strength. One evening, a few months later, we were having dinner on the penthouse terrace. The city lights sparkled below, a familiar and comforting sight. Elias had just returned from a particularly grueling week of negotiations abroad. The deal is done, he announced, raising his glass. Signed, sealed, and delivered. Thanks in no small part to your market analysis, Leo. I'm glad I could help. I smiled, a genuine, radiant smile. You looked exhausted when you left. He reached across the table, taking my hand. A small price to pay. It means we can finally slow down. Take some time for ourselves. His eyes held a deeper meaning. Oh. I raised an eyebrow, a playful glint in my eyes. And what does taking time for ourselves entail, Hayes? He chuckled, his thumb stroking the back of my hand. Perhaps a trip. Somewhere warm. Somewhere we can truly be alone. He paused, his gaze softening, becoming intensely personal. And perhaps a conversation about our future. A more permanent future. My heart leaped. I knew what he was hinting at. It had been an unspoken understanding, a growing certainty between us. But to hear him voice it, a permanent future, I whispered, my voice thick with emotion. He squeezed my hand. Leo, you have brought light back into my life. You have shown me a depth of emotion, a connection I never thought possible. You make me a better man, a stronger alpha. He reached into his jacket pocket, pulling out a small velvet box. My breath hitched. He opened it, revealing a simple, elegant platinum band set with a single, brilliant diamond. It wasn't flashy, but it radiated quiet strength, just like him. He got down on one knee, right there on the terrace, overlooking the sprawling city. Leo, my beautiful, brilliant Omega, will you do me the honor of becoming my husband? My partner, in every sense of the word. Tears streamed down my face, hot and joyful. It wasn't just a proposal. It was a testament to our journey, to the healing, to the love that had blossomed from the ashes of my heartbreak. Yes, Elias. I cried, my voice choked with emotion. 1,000 times, yes. He rose, a triumphant smile on his face, and slid the ring onto my finger. It fit perfectly. He pulled me into his arms, kissing me with a fervor that left no doubt of his love, of our shared destiny. I love you, Leo, he murmured against my lips, his voice raw with emotion. I love you too, Elias, I replied, my heart overflowing. The city lights seemed to twinkle brighter, celebrating with us. The past was a distant memory, a painful, but necessary chapter that had led me to this moment, to this man. I had found love in the most unexpected place, with the most unexpected alpha. And in his powerful, unwavering love, I had found myself. My self-worth was no longer a fragile thing. It was a solid, undeniable truth, built on the foundation of our bond. The forbidden romance had become a beautiful, undeniable reality, a testament to resilience, to second chances, and to the enduring power of love. Our story was just beginning. Weeks later, the news of our engagement spread like wildfire, a topic of endless fascination in the corporate world and beyond. Elias handled it with his usual unflappable grace, and I, standing proudly by his side, found my own voice, my own confidence. The whispers still existed, but they were drowned out by the genuine congratulations, the respect for Elias, and the quiet admiration for our unconventional love story. One afternoon, I found myself in the executive lounge, reviewing some documents. The door opened, and a familiar, unwelcome scent wafted in. Marcus. He stood in the doorway, looking thinner, his once charming smile now strained. He was back, briefly, from Albany for a mandatory corporate meeting. Leo, he began, his voice hesitant, a far cry from his usual arrogance. I looked up, my gaze steady, devoid of the old pain. Marcus. He shifted uncomfortably. I saw the announcement. Congratulations on your engagement. His eyes flickered to the diamond on my finger, a flicker of something unreadable in their depths. Regret, envy. Thank you, I replied, my voice calm. He took a step closer. Look, I know I messed up. Big time. I was a fool. A complete and utter idiot. I let ambition blind me. Chloe, she was just a distraction. A means to an end. He ran a hand through his hair, looking genuinely miserable. I should have never let you go, Leo. You were everything. A small, sad smile touched my lips. You didn't let me go, Marcus. You discarded me. You humiliated me. You broke my heart into a million pieces. The words were delivered without anger, just a quiet, undeniable truth. And you weren't looking for everything. You were looking for convenience, for status, for someone to make you look good. He flinched. I know. And I've regretted it every single day. I thought maybe, now that you're engaged to Hayes, maybe we could at least be friends. Rebuild some kind of bridge. I shook my head slowly, the diamond on my finger catching the light. There's no bridge to rebuild, Marcus. That ship sailed a long time ago. I've moved on. I've found someone who truly sees me, who values me, who loves me for who I am, not for what I can do for him. His shoulders slumped. So that's it. No second chances? You had your chance, Marcus, I stated, my voice firm, devoid of any lingering bitterness. And you threw it away. I wish you well. But my life, my future, is with Elias now. And there's no room for you in it. He nodded slowly, a profound understanding dawning in his eyes. He finally saw it. He saw what he had lost. Not just a partner, but a future, a love that was now stronger, more vibrant than anything he could have offered. I understand, he said, his voice barely above a whisper. He turned to leave, a shadow of the man he once was. As he reached the door, he paused, looking back at me, a flicker of something almost wistful in his gaze. He's a good man, Leo Hayes. Don't let him go. I smiled, a genuine, heartfelt smile. I won't. I never will. He nodded, a silent acknowledgement, and then he was gone. And this time, his departure left no void, no lingering pain, only a sense of closure, of peace. I looked down at the ring on my finger, a tangible symbol of the love I had found. Elias, my Elias. He had been my unexpected shelter, my fierce protector, and ultimately my greatest love. Our journey had been fraught with challenges, with internal struggles and external pressures, but we had faced them together, emerging stronger, more united. The power dynamic, once a source of apprehension, had transformed. It was no longer a hierarchy, but a balance. He was the powerful alpha, yes, but I was his equally powerful omega, his partner, his confidant. We built each other up, complementing each other's strengths, supporting each other's weaknesses. The corporate world, with its gossip and cutthroat politics, no longer held power over me. I had found my place, not just professionally, but personally. I was loved, I was valued, and I was ready for whatever the future, with Elias by my side, held. Our love story, born from heartbreak and forged in the crucible of corporate scrutiny, was a testament to the fact that sometimes the greatest treasures are found in the most unexpected places, with the most unlikely of heroes. And I, Leo, was ready to write the rest of our beautiful, complex, perfectly imperfect story.